The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to a new week of Fantasy NBA Today. A Hoop Ball and Hawaiian Isles Kona Coffee presentation. I am Dan Besbris, solo on this Monday. And it makes me sad. My good buddy Ethan Noroff is out of town. And we had some mishmash weekend stuff, so we couldn't get this thing early. And it's probably a good thing we didn't. We had the Warriors game, obviously, on Friday. Another ball game tonight that could end the finals. And frankly, in terms of ones where maybe you don't need multiple barrel action here on a post-mortem, the Oklahoma City Thunder would easily be that team. I mean, I can't... That's, by the way, who we're covering today. I can't think of a team that's an easier post-mortem to do than the Thunder, because they are beyond cash-strapped. They have basically every single piece from last year rolling over almost for the next 2 seasons. It's not entirely true, but a lot of them for 2 years. And then after that, Russell Westbrook and Paul George, excuse me, I think are the only players left 3 years down the line. But we're not going to go that far, obviously. We're going to talk Oklahoma City Thunder in just a little bit, basically where we think guys are going to get drafted. I think that's all that there is to look at this point, because we know who this team is. They're a team that had 4 legitimately solid fantasy prospects this year. Maybe 5 if you're in a points league, but 4 in every other one. And there's not much reason to think that a whole lot changes year over year. We've got the Raptors going up 3-1 over the Warriors in the NBA Finals, the dinged-up Warriors and the better-than-you-thought Raptors. And when I say you, I mean everybody, myself included. The Raptors' defense has been outstanding. Schematically, they've been able to take Golden State out of what they want to do. And, of course, with the Warriors a little bit hamstrung, they haven't been able to execute the way they have in seasons past. They don't have the depth they've had in seasons past, and so when bodies are down, and they have been, this is a 2-story finals, as far as I'm concerned. Multiple stories, 2 of them, to be exact. First of all, I'm at Dan Besbris on Twitter. You guys know that. At Hoopball Fantasy, at HI Kona Coffee, if you want to check out our title sponsor here at the Hoob. Our good buddy Glenn, keeping them wired with delicious, delicious coffee. The Kona difference. The Aloha. It's all the good stuff. You got to check it out. HawaiianIsles.com. HawaiianIsles.com. Go there now. And buy something. Get something on Amazon. Get it Prime. It's worth it. A lot of you guys are blowing $6 on a whatever it is that they make at Starbucks these days. A pumpkin spice latte. I know it's not fall yet. It's probably more than that. What is this? What is it? Something at Starbucks cost? $5-6? You can basically get a whole bag for that. I think it's like $8 for a bag of Hawaiian Isles. Get that good stuff just straight into your home. You don't have to go buy it every day. And get way more of it. Bang for the buck, people. I'm a man who loves quality, and I'm a man who loves discount. So the finals, 2 stories as far as I'm concerned. Story number 1 is the Toronto Raptors defense. It's been outstanding in every respect. Even in the game that they lost, yes, their defense wasn't that great, but it truly was their offense that let them down. Warriors shot 46% in that game. That's fine. It's nothing earth-shattering. You know, Steph was at 35%. Clay had a good game. But the Raptors shot 37%. They lost that game because they couldn't make a bucket. The Warriors haven't been able to do anything on offense. Can't believe we're saying that. Warriors shot 44% in the first game of this series. They got beat up. Then we told you 46 in the next one. And their 2 games at home, Warriors shot 40%. That was when everybody was hurt. And then in the last one, 45%. And they weren't that close. Raptors only 42% in that ball game, but they smoked them. Smoked them anyway. Warriors missed 7 free throws. Raptors missed, 1? It's a big difference. 6 points right there. Gets you a better ball game. Warriors had 17 turnovers to the Raptors' 9. There just weren't enough options, which is weird to say. Clay played well on a sprained hamstring. Steph had 27. He was fine. Draymond almost triple-doubled. He was fine. But just too many turnovers, and then they didn't get anything else. Andre Iguodala is playing on maybe one leg. Kevon Looney played through a broken collarbone. KD out. And that's a big one. We knew they were going to need KD for these finals because they're going up a team that plays good schematic defense, and in a lot of scenarios, you just need to be able to give it to a guy who can go get a shot. KD was that guy. It's why he's been finals MVP when the Warriors win with him on the team. Because in these moments, when the defense is prolific and things grind a little bit, you go dump it to a guy who can shoot 50% going one-on-one all game. He doesn't need open looks. Are we about to find out about Kevin Durant's savior complex? I don't know. Are we looking more towards Kevin Durant, future non-Warrior? The murmurings are happening. Make no mistake. The team is saying all the right things, but behind the scenes, you can certainly bet that they watched Klay Thompson come back from a sprained hamstring in one missed game, and Durant hasn't played in a month and a half. He's icing it. They call it a calf. It might be an Achilles. We don't know. Regardless, Kawhi Leonard, very good in that last ball game. Again, made all 9 of his free throws. Pascal Siakam had 19, but he was only okay. Serge Ibaka had 20 points in that game. You know, it wasn't like they put on an offensive clinic. Like we said, Raptors shot only 42%, but they didn't turn the ball over. So they got more opportunities than the Warriors. They made more three-pointers than the Warriors. Oh, I forgot to mention Boogie's playing hurt. We all looked at this team and we were like, 5 bleeping all-stars? What's going to stand in their way? And the only answer we could come up with was injury. What if a bunch of injuries happen? Here we are. So to me, story number 1 is obviously the Raptors' defense. They've been incredible. The Warriors have been slightly shorthanded, but it should be enough to be good. And they have been good, just not great. And the other story is the injury bug. Raptors have been, by all accounts, relatively healthy. Kawhi Leonard seems like he's looking healthier as the playoffs have gone on with these long layoffs between games. Believe it or not, it's actually helped Toronto more than Golden State. Because Clay is not fully healthy. Iguodala looks terrible out there. Looney's beat up. Boogie's beat up. KD's not in. So it's a tale of two stories. And as I was talking to my father-in-law over the weekend, it occurred to me that this is not a revelation. It seems like every year, the team that makes it to the end of the rainbow is the team that stays fairly healthy all the way to the end of the said rainbow. Warriors over the Cavs when they were completely beat to hell. The key suspension when the Cavs came back on the Warriors. You know, call it health, whatever you want to call it. Chris Paul's injury last year. Fine. Maybe things would have played out the same without them. But it looks like more than coincidence when every year the team that makes it to the end is the one that stays fairly healthy. And so the NBA says, well, how do we keep these teams more healthy? How do we keep this from being the who wins, who's the healthy team? Why don't we space the finals out over like 25 days? No, it's not changing anything. You got to jam these games in quicker, NBA. It's got to be every other day. The first round has to be best of 5. And the games have to happen every other freaking day, at least past the first round. Because in the first round, you know, at the very least, you've got 8 series going on. So there's a decent amount of basketball. Once you get past that and there just aren't that many games happening, you can't be having this kind of layoff. I honestly didn't know what day that game was in Golden State. I turned on my computer Friday at like 9:30 p.m., and the game was over. Oh, crap, it was today? I figured there were 2 days off. Right? Because he had 2 days in between each of the first 3, and then all of a sudden they were like, nah, you're going to speed this one up for 1 game. And then 2 days off again after this one. So maybe a pattern? Anything at all, NBA. Fix it. Fix it now. This is bad. It's bad for those of us who are diehards. I'm just watching baseball at this point. At least I know it's on. What do I think happens in this ball game tonight? Well, normally I'd bang this thing around with my good buddy Neil Rochlani, but that's tomorrow's podcast. So, in the words of the great Maxwell Smart, missed it by that much. Toronto by 1.5. We got to find out who's playing. I don't think Kevin Durant plays. I don't think he's going to do the savior thing. I think he's done. I don't think he's playing in these finals regardless of how long they go. I think he's done. I think he knows he's done. I think he wants to be healthy. I think he wants to go sign a fat contract somewhere else. He's through with it. I don't know where. Clippers, Knicks, Kyrie and the Nets. Who the hell knows? I don't think he's playing. And for that reason, I think Toronto wins it. I think they wrap it up in this one. Warriors don't have home court. They just lost 2 games at home. So they now have to win an additional 2 games on the road. They've already won 1. And another home game, which they haven't. Funny thing, by the way, Warriors extending their streak of winning at least 1 road game in every playoff series, even if they might not win a home game. And bid farewell to Oracle. Maybe that's one thing that gets them back. You want to play one more game at Oracle Arena. I don't think they get back home. I think the Raptors win this thing. I think at this point you put a bow on it. Warriors aren't healthy. They're not going to get healthy overnight. But who the hell knows? With 3 days off, anything can happen. Maybe Durant plays, but for me, I'm assuming he doesn't. And I've seen enough to say that the Raptors have been the better team in this series. It's not luck. They've been better. Let's talk Thunder. And here's the thing, folks. I like to keep these podcasts in the 30-minute range at minimum. I think 25 is basically the shortest we've ever done of anything outside of just because I've done some shows where I just thanked a bunch of people and called it, 10-minute tide you over show, end of the season, that type of thing. In terms of real legit pods, episodes, little quanta here, I try to keep it above 25 minutes. I'm not sure that we can do another 12 on the Thunder. And it's not because I don't like the fantasy players on this team. Paul George was number 3 in 9-cat. Russell Westbrook was number 31. Jeremy Grant was number 72, ahead of Steven Adams at 82. And Nerlens Noel in deep leagues was actually useful. He was number 157, Dennis Schroeder 174. There are teams that didn't have anybody inside the top 40. There are teams that had 1 guy inside the top 70, and here we are. Thunder have 4 guys inside the top 100. This was a great fantasy team. Paul George is going to get drafted in the middle of the first round next year. I don't think he's going to go 3rd. I don't think people believe that he can replicate this. I think you'll see guys, especially if KD goes off and starts his own thing. Rightfully so. He should probably go in front of him. When KD is motivated, which he was his first year with the Warriors, that was nuts. He was out on his own plane. As long as Anthony Davis is still with the Pelicans at the start of the year, which maybe he won't be, he'll probably still go first. James Harden will be in the top 2. You'll probably see KD inside the top 3. Giannis will be up there inside the top 5. But I think Paul George, you put him in the end of that bucket. Top 5, KD, top 6 maybe. Does Paul George slide just behind him? And that's a pretty reasonable spot to grab it, because what we saw this year is that when Paul George was healthy, the team was better with him as the offensive focal point. When he went down with his shoulder stuff, I don't know that he ever got fully okay again. And then it became the Westbrook show, which is, as we've seen before, fairly limiting on the offensive side because he's a high-volume 43% shooter. He shot 66% of the free throw line, so you could whack him and it wouldn't hurt you much. Yeah, 23, 11, and 11 is pretty damn good with 2 steals and 1.6 threes, but those percentages are dragging you down. You know how much I love percentages, so Westbrook is not my cup of tea. So in terms of those top 2 guys, I think Paul George is probably drafted about where he should be. I'm guessing he goes in the 5 to 7 range. Westbrook's going to be overdrafted. Inevitably, he will be. Namesake, triple-doubles, all that stuff. And, ADPs are swung at times by leagues that have slightly different settings. Maybe a league that doesn't have percentages, like a points league, perhaps an 8-category league that doesn't have his 4.5 free throws. All of those things float Westbrook because he's terrible in 3 of the 9 categories. He's awesome in 4 of the 9 categories. He's good in 1, and he's meh in the other. That's blocks. The meh was 3-pointers. So he's a guy where you could wipe out one of his atrocious categories and bump his number up fast. You wipe out the field goal percent, boom. He goes from top 31 to top 20-something. Boom, you wipe out the free throw percent, jumps inside the top 10. Wipe out turnovers, he's a top 5 kind of guy. But most of us don't have that type of luxury. So he's going to get overdrafted. I'm not going to end up with him in most places. He's also, to me, showing signs of wearing down a little bit. He's played at such an insane clip for so long. You had to figure this day was coming. Jeremy Grant, I'm a big fan. He's on contract for only $9 million this coming year. That's a steal as far as I'm concerned. He was a guy that I talked about a lot at the beginning of the season, picked him up in like 3 places, and then dropped him thinking, all right, well, these numbers are, repeatable elsewhere. And then I realized, nope, he was just going to keep on being consistent and other guys were going to flounder. The drops I made on Jeremy Grant, for no clear reason other than that I was chasing something, were drops that are going to haunt me for years because he's good in 3 of my 4 favorite categories. Great field goal percent at 50, almost a steal and 1.3 blocks per game. You get me a guy with over 2 defensive stats that's not killing you in any statistical category? Why, he definitely falls into one of my love buckets. Thing is here, the Thunder are funny because all 4 of their good fantasy players and Nerlens Noel you can throw into that mix. 5 guys on this team averaged more than 2 combined steals and blocks. Paul George at 2.6, Westbrook 2.4, Grant 2.1, Steven Adams 2.5, Nerlens Noel 2.1. It's a big reason, by the way, why 4 of those 5 guys are inside the top 100. Problem is, Russell Westbrook, 2 terrible percentages. Steven Adams, 1 awful free throw percent. Nerlens Noel, not really any awful percentages. He just didn't do anything else. I'd rather probably have Nerlens Noel than some of these guys. At least he's not killing you. But that's an amazing number of defensive stats to work with on a team. And I see no reason why Jeremy Grant shouldn't be able to do it again. He's their starting power forward, and he's largely unchallenged for that role. An aging Patrick Patterson is not going to push him. Nerlens Noel is not going to play significant power forward minutes, and we don't even know if he's going to exercise his player option yet. I think he's on the veterans minimum. Or just the player minimum. I don't even know at this point. Markieff Morris, are they going to bring him back? Probably not. He's going to be looking for more money than they can afford. Could he push Jeremy Grant? I doubt it. So to me, this is a guy that might actually slip a little farther than he should. I want to loop back around to Jeremy Grant in a minute. First, let's talk Steven Adams, who finished at number 82. He was largely overdrafted this year. I think people thought that he would make a positive move in free throw percent, and he actually worked the wrong direction in that one, which is now 2 consecutive years of that. That's a weird development, honestly. By all accounts, this is basically the season you expected out of Steven Adams. He almost duplicated the previous year. He was at exactly 13.9, 2 consecutive seasons, exactly 1 block per game now for 3 consecutive seasons. The only thing changing for Adams is that his minutes have actually trended up each of the last 3 years, and so his rebounds have gone up and his assists have gone up each of the last 3 years. The things that are basically on a per 36 that you'd expect to go up as the minutes have gone up kind of did. Rebounds went up from 7.7 to 9 to 9.5, assists from 1.6 or 1.1 to 2 to 1.6. Sorry, all that is the number after the decimal point. Steals from 1.1 to 1.2 to 1.5. And then you thought the blocks might go up a tiny bit, but that actually has regressed slightly in his per 36 numbers. He's just sitting right on 1. He's an awfully predictable fella. I think what you'd hope for going into next year is that you could duplicate these numbers, when I see, again, no reason not to think that would be the case. And then you hope that he sort of bungles his way into more like a 56, 57% free throw number as opposed to 50. But that's not enough to change his overall value much. From number 82, if he was at 57% instead of 50, he'd probably move to like maybe number 75. Be a small jump. Could Jeremy Grant do anything more? With Westbrook and George in front of him, it's a tall ask for Grant. And you look at his numbers, it's just not clear where his stuff could improve. This was the best season of his career, and it wasn't close. He eclipsed his previous high in scoring by 4. Eclipsed his previous high in steals by 0.1. It was not his career high in blocks, which was 1.6 3 years ago. Set his career high in rebounding. He was pretty close to his career high in scoring, field goal percent rather, well above his career mark, and his free throw percent was a career high as well. So, when you look at Jeremy Grant, you're like, well, could his free throw come from 71 to like 73? Maybe. Field goal percent from 50, would that go up? I doubt it, as long as he's still attempting almost 4 3-pointers a game. You'd probably have to see that number come down for his field goal percent to come up. Could rebounds improve? I doubt it, with Westbrook on the team just scooping them all up. Vacuuming up all them rebounds, even the ones that don't belong to him. Assists? Nah. Steals? Nah. Blocks? Maybe. Doubt it. I think what you're looking at with Jeremy Grant is a very safe guy that should sit right around top 75. He's got a little bit of that Derek Favors to his game, with added 3-pointers and fewer rebounds. But a good field goal percent, slightly lower than Derek, slightly better free throw percent, slightly better 3-pointers, lower rebounds, and then everything else is not that far off. Which is basically like, well, you know what? In forward eligibility, he's not a center, so that maybe puts one slight demerit on his name. But if you can get him around 100, you absolutely do, especially to get a guy who can block some shots in no man's land of your draft without crushing you in any categories. That's a great grab. I also have to think Steven Adams ends up going too early again. And it's not to say that getting him wherever it is he went, I think he went at like 70, roughly, in my drafts, around 70. And that's fine. I mean, you get somebody at 70 who finishes at 82. By all accounts, you can call that a wash. One round at that point is minimal. And he played an 80 ball game, so I think you have to be okay with it. He's durable. You'd love it if Westbrook would let him get some rebounds. I'm not a big fan of the Steven Adams thing because of the free throw stuff. You really do have to counterbalance that, and he's not a big shot blocker. So that's a ding on him. If you're going to take a hit in free throws, you kind of want a guy who's blocking a bunch of shots, because those are the other guys out there that kill you. If you have Steven Adams on your team, you're going to have a tough time winning blocks unless you took one of those blockers early that doesn't hurt you in free throw percent. So he's a strange player, in my estimation, to blend into a roto team. I mean, you can find a way. Just not really my move. I'm not drafting Nerlens Noel unless something crazy happens. There's just not enough minutes. Steven Adams is too much of a horse. Love Nerlens for streaming opportunity when Adams is out. For big, if they have any 5-game weeks this coming year, you drop him in there in your head-to-head league. Even some 4-game weeks, depending on competition and so forth, can help win you steals and blocks a little bit. And then Dennis Schroeder. He and Goran Dragic are consistently in a battle, in my estimation, for most overrated point guard in terms of statistics and fantasy. Dennis Schroeder has not put up good fantasy numbers for a couple of years now. He's a one-trick pony, and that trick is scoring. His assists are not that great. His percentages are fine, but the volume at the free throw line is enough to make a huge difference. He's not a good shooter from the field. He doesn't take that many threes. He doesn't get nearly as many steals as you'd expect from a guy of his speed. He's just not that great. He's fine as a basketball player. Fantasy-wise, he's just not that good. And he's not going anywhere on this team. Your only hope is that his field goal percent makes a significant leap. And at this point, year 7 coming up, I don't think so. Not touching him. Outside of points leagues, I might give him a look in a points league. Scoring is nice. The popcorn stuff is okay. He doesn't get any steals, but you can wipe out that 41% shooting, and then things do get a little bit better. How'd I do? Did I make it to 25 minutes? Just about. That was my goal here. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it. But I guess that counts. Coming up the rest of the week here on Fantasy NBA Today. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. I really do think I had the easiest team in 30 on this one. No, but not to me, because with all these other teams, there's always these question marks. Well, what if this guy's not back? What if this guy's not back? I don't know what the Thunder are going to do. They got Westbrook for $41 million, Paul George is at $35 million this coming year, Steven Adams 26. Excuse me, I had that wrong. Westbrook 38, Paul George 33, Steven Adams 26, Schroeder 15.5. Andre Robertson might play next year. Forgot to mention him. I'm not drafting him. He would slot in as the shooting guard on this team. So you call that starting lineup Westbrook, Robertson, George, Grant, Adams, Schroeder off the bench. Raymond Felton came off the books. So everybody else got a raise. Ray raised $2 million, came off the books, and their salary went up as a team by $1 million. And Nerlens Noel might not be on the team. So we talked about him, but again, I mentioned it was a player option, so he might go trying to make a couple bucks elsewhere. If he ends up in a spot where he's going to get 20 minutes, I would throw a shekel at him my last round of the draft. Throw that little tidbit on Nerlens here. Rest of the week, as promised. Tomorrow, with Neil Rochlani, we'll talk to Utah Jazz. If the playoffs are still going, we'll talk about those. Brandon Marcus, myself, will break down the Celtics on Wednesday. He's going to have to try to keep me on point in that one, but I have some slight Lakers gloating to do, as long as the Lakers are a total disaster. A lot of we Laker fans take some solace in the fact that the Celtics are falling apart at the seams as well. Sixers on Thursday. Neil will have the helm on that one. Rockets on Friday. Adrian and Coach will wrap up the week, our penultimate post-mortem week. The following Friday is the draft. That'll be the last day of our post-mortem, so pretty cool stuff going on around here. Always a weekly piece running in conjunction with our podcast here on the post-mortems. The weekly piece today are by our good buddy Micah Patria. Love that kid. That'll be coming out actually probably before the podcast. Dimitri's got tomorrow's with the Jazz. The Celtics breakdown is Hunter, one of the hosts of the Brooklyn Nets show here at Hoop Ball. He's also doing some writing. Sixers, Najee, the other host of the Brooklyn Nets podcast. Nate Wen on Friday, he's got the Rockets. So if you want to check out some of that stuff, that's going to be posted at Hoop Ball Fantasy as well. Good luck to your team, whoever they may be, in the NBA Finals tonight. Good luck to your country. Two countries doing battle in this one. Is it the Raptors' time? Warriors have had quite a lot of them. Can they come back? Do we care that much because there isn't a fantasy implication there, fantasy stuff at play? I don't really. It's funny. I don't. Once the money is off the table, so is some of my interest. That'll about be that. Next Monday, of course, Ethan will tell us about some fruits he purchased over the weekend. We weren't able to do the fruit minute here on today's show. At Dan Besbris on Twitter. Give me a follow if you have a moment. I know it's the off season. Rate and review the podcast if you like what you're listening to here. And again, back at you tomorrow with Neil Rochlani. We'll break down the Jazz. Have a lovely Monday. So long.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.